You're insane! Of course I'm insane! The fuck? What now?
Hello there, and here, and I'm something of a virtual YouTuber myself. So we've all been there. We're on the tightest of budgets, and sometimes we have to scrape together something. Just imagine you just want something to get by, either temporary or even an extended period of time. What can a single week of minimum wage work get you? First off, we got ourselves the i7 860, a first gen i7, launched an eternity ago, September 2009. That was 13 years ago. A lot of improvements have happened in 13 years, and that means that this thing is missing a few features, such as AVX, which some games need to run. The base clock is 2.8 GHz, and it can turbo up to 3.5 GHz. In comparison, a modern Pentium such as the G7400 will run at 3.7 GHz as its base clock, and will sip less power at 46 watts TDP, as this old boy will gulp down 95 watts of power. I managed to get this CPU, motherboard, and 8 gigs of RAM for only $29, and even as old as this is, it's still a good bargain. With 4 cores and 8 threads, it still managed to hang in there, which shows that Intel was onto something with its Core i series of CPUs. Next up, we have ourselves the GPU, the GTX 960, a Maxwell architecture mid-ranger. This is specifically the MSI GTX 960 OC and is the 2GB version. I bought this bad boy for 31 bucks, not too bad, huh? Launched January 22nd, 2015, this card is starting to show its age, but lucky for it, that still gets driver updates. Unlucky for it, that's the 2GB variant, meaning that it will be stuck to lower textured setting on newer games. I'll get into further details onto this GPU in a future video, so keep an eye on that. Once again, I'll show you the specs and prices real quick. Alright, like always, we'll do our synthetics real quick. In Cinebench R23, we get the multi-score of 2,384 and a single score of 477. Single score is looking great for a CPU of its age, performing much better in both multi and single that FX8300 I tested last year, which that CPU came out a good 3 years after this one. On Firestrike we get 6,095, and on Time Spy we get 2,253, and for PC Mark 3,022.
Sitting throwing rocks across the pavement, hoping it will cave and swallow me whole. Wondering why my mind keeps on spinning. This isn't how living to me was told. Why am I like this? Something's always amiss. Can't put my finger on it, but it's there. Wait for it to subside, but my mind won't apply. Waiting for the clear. Is it bad sometimes? I like it when I lose control. There's something in it that's so beautiful. Listen, I can see the light today, but I can also see the bones decay. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away. Sitting throwing listen, I can see the light. Didn't know, but I can also see the bones.
The i7-860 does not have the AVX features, meaning it won't run certain games and even some software, such as Warzone, as I was initially confused why it wasn't opening till I looked it up. Warzone and other Call of Duty games require the AVX features, which the i7-i60 does not have. Now moving on to the rest of the notes. Fortnite at comp settings was having more stutters than the normal stutter night amount, while performance mode really helped smooth out the issues bringing your usual amount of Fortnite stutters. Overwatch still runs well at high, but medium will once again smooth out the experience. Don't be alarmed, the stuttering more or less is limited to the menu and you don't have to spend too much there. I would consider Cyberpunk 2077 a cinematic experience. If you're desperate to play this game, it would be doable depending on your pain tolerance, of course. Forza Horizon 5 will usually smooth itself out the longer you play, and according to the worst case scenario that the canned benchmark shows, it'll be a 30 FPS average. With the CPU in retirement and the GPU having finished its midlife crisis, it didn't do too bad. It was hard to determine which part was the bigger bottleneck. It could have even just been the 8 gigs of RAM. I wouldn't really recommend going out of your way to get a first gen i7, but it actually isn't the worst choice out there. With its 4 cores and 8 threads, it aged quite decently, especially how much games and other applications are using multi-thread utilization. It is still underpowered compared to the modern chips, but it's not terrible. The GPU lands in such a strange spot. There exists a 4 gig 960 and doesn't perform much better than a GTX 950. You can either spend less to save money and don't see a big difference, or spend way more money just to have some better textures. I would recommend anything a 970 or above if you're looking for a GPU, but for $31 and fitting within the $100 budget, it's not the worst. Overall, don't get this PC, but if you do have a PC with this CPU, I would recommend you bumping this GPU to a 1060, preferably a 6 gig version. Unless you really want to play Warzone, then get at least a 2nd gen i7, since at that point they do have most of the modern features you need. If you have any of these parts, let me know how well they served you, or if you're planning out a budget build, let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm ManHero. Like if you like, and dislike if you don't like it, or just hate me. Subscribe if you want to see more. See you next time.